On today's show, Eric cooks for the captain's table, a jewel-encrusted Fabergé egg on a journey across the Baltic to St. Petersburg. He modernises the classic French dessert, Île Flottante, and makes the easiest soufflé in the world, Soufflé Glacé cassis. Our story has taken us from Paris to Vienna and now to Brighton, where Carême worked for the infamous Prince Regent at the Pavilion. Carême loved the modern kitchens, but hated the weather, and most of all, the prince himself. After 8 months, he was given a lifeline. Tsar Alexander of Russia, who Carême had cooked for when the Allies invaded Paris, wanted the world's first celebrity chef to cook for him at the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. Carême didn't hesitate and left for Russia in the knowledge he was about to make a fortune. Eric's retracing Carême's steps, but is travelling in a little more style.
Carême's journey to St. Petersburg was horrendous. 200 years ago, sea travel was dirty and very dangerous. Near the coast of Denmark, the ship hit a terrible storm. As well as being very seasick, Carême thought he was going to die. To make the matters worse, as we approached St. Petersburg, they ran out of ration, and he almost starved to death.
No danger of Eric starving to death, as this cruise ship boasts a fantastic 4 restaurants and a huge staff of chefs. Eric's having to pay for his passage though by cooking dessert for the captain and his guests.
So here we are, back in a professional kitchen. A lot of memories, of course. I did my national service in a galley kitchen. As usual, I'm in a corner when all the other chefs got the luxury of the big kitchen. So as we are on the way to St. Petersburg, I thought, let's do a dessert with a Russian theme. So I'm going to make a Fabergé egg with a chocolate mousse and blueberries. So first of all, we're going to make an egg shell where we're going to serve the mousse in. When you use good quality chocolate, you need to move the temperature, so you need to melt it quite hot, drop the temperatures to a certain level, and reheat it again. And I'm going to leave it in the fridge till the time I do the mousse. So the rest of the recipe is quite simple. It's a nice chocolate mousse. So 8 egg yolks, 250 grams of custard sugar, and a bit of elbow action with a whisk. Right, next step is to, we got some unsalted butter, we've been melted, and I got some pure cocoa powder here. And I do say cocoa powder, not drinking chocolates. And we're going to mix them together. This is a nice, strong, rich recipe. It works perfectly with the blueberries, because they're quite acidic. But you got the sweetness on the, of the fruit. You can go quite bitter with the chocolates. I don't even think about using milk chocolate on this one. It will completely ruin the recipe. It'll be too sweet, so just forget it.
Now add the chocolate to your eggs and icing sugar mixture.
We're going to mix all the ingredients together.
Next, add the butter and cocoa mixture. Using a spatula, stir in thoroughly.
Okay, next step is adding the cream to our chocolate mousse. Just slightly whipped, you don't want to over whip it. Carême will have never put anything simple on a plate, so wait for what's going to come up on the decorations, and that's when you get all your breath on the work. Okay, that's ready. So to fill the eggs, I'm going to use a piping bag. So here I got some disc of dark chocolate sponge, and we're just going to gently push them on the mousse. I always find sponge very boring, so we always need to add a bit of a kick on flavors. So I got some crème de cassis here, which is quite a similar fruit to the blueberries. You're going to break first through the crunchy chocolate, and you're going to have the lovely light mousse and the oozing blueberry compote at the end. A bit more booze, you can't go wrong with booze, to be honest. Okay, that's it for step 1. They're all set. We're going to go in the fridge to set before we demold them, before we do the artistic bits to it as well. Okay, so here I got a silicone mold. As you can see, it's designed to look like jewels. And we're going to use a caramel, colored caramel, to make some decoration for the top of our eggs. I'm using some alcohol-based food coloring because you can't use water-based. Okay, so the temperatures to make the jewels have to be absolutely right. Well, a few reasons for that. First, they need to be brittle to look like glass, and at the same time we want the right colors because we want to be clear. Okay, so they're set. You can feel with your fingers they're like hard. So we're just going to demo them gently.
Choose your colors: rubies, emeralds, yellow diamonds, whatever you like. Make a paper cornet to decorate the eggs with tempered chocolate. The captain's guests are on the main course, so time to decorate.
So that's done. Now the gilding, glittering, we can call it as well, because we're going to use edible glitter just to give it that jewel type of look. Just a bit of edible glitter. Slide them gently. I think this one is my favorite, so we're going to have to give this one to the captain. Just a bit of a dusting of a cocoa. And if it wasn't enough glitz on the actual eggs, just a bit of flakes of gold leaves as well, scattered on the plate. So.
That's yeah. The golden one. Yeah.
Oh, it's molten.
Delicious.
Really gorgeous. It's inside. Chocolate. I'm in.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing? So, Captain, what do you think?
It's fantastic. It's delicious.
Okay, I'm glad you like it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think that,
How do you like it? Oh, thank you. Now you're embarrassing me now.
I think we need to do another toast. You know? So I toast for Eric for this fantastic cake.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
St. Petersburg was built from marshland in just 2 decades by Peter the Great. It was designed to rival the great European cities like Paris, Venice, and Vienna. Carême, the lover of architecture, found new inspiration for his famous pièce montée when he arrived in 1819, discovering a city of hugely impressive buildings and palaces. Next, a classic French dessert that's as popular in Russia as it is all over Europe. Île Flottante, floating island.
You must all know this following recipe. It's called floating island, Île Flottante. It's a very French classic. It was actually the first dessert I ever tried to make. No, I didn't try. I actually made it when I was 6, and I carried on for many years. This one is a bit more sophisticated than the one I used to do all those years ago, but same principle. The secret is to have some very stiff egg white and to poach them in milk. Most people do it in water, in boiling water, and of course, egg white in boiling water is not going to taste nice, but in lovely milk with vanilla, it's going to be beautiful. So first step, whisk your egg white in a mixer with a little bit of custard sugar just to give a good stiffness. In the meantime, I got some milk here, which is simmering with a vanilla pod. Perfect, nice and stiff. So now we can poach them. Okay, so with a 2 spoon, you try to create a nice little shape for what's going to be our islands. And I'm just going to drop them gently in our simmering vanilla milk. So you need to give them like 2 minutes each side. So you turn them around very gently. And with a slotted spoon, you gently pick them up. At least let them sliding down on the kitchen paper just to soak the extra milk. Okay, and don't worry about the milk. We're not going to waste that. We're going to use it to make our crème anglaise. So you got some egg yolk here, custard sugar, and mix it quickly. And I'm going to sift the milk to catch the vanilla pod, but as well all the little bits of egg white. The mixture is going to go back in. Cook it on the stove. What we're really looking for is some cream which is going to coat the back of our spoon You can see if you pass your finger, you can see that's a test. Okay, it's lovely and creamy. Always worth passing it through a sieve again, just to catch any little bits of eggs or milk you will have settled. So I'm going to fill the glass with some of the custard. And if you want to recreate this kind of design or effect, you know, it will be the first time you don't need to search for matching glasses. And now I got the floating island, the egg white, the poached egg white. So I'm just going to gently put them inside our glasses. Okay, so far, apart maybe of the display, nothing too extraordinary about this floating island, but let's add our little touch to it. So here I got what we called praline rose. They are a specialty from the north of France. They are like little sweet. They are caramelized almond coated with pink sugar. I'm going to put them in little plastic bags. You can smell the beautiful aroma of the roasted almond. Okay, and final detail, decoration-wise, I got some caramel here, just sugar and water on a stove to get a nice golden color. And if you leave it to cool it down, you're able to lift it like this and get what we call angel hair. Here we are, a much better presentation than when I used to make them when I was 6. I'm sure they taste as delicious, but this is my Île Flottante with praline rose, floating island with pink pralines.
Carême had been invited to cook for the Tsar of Russia and was in St. Petersburg. He discovered a city that was described as the Venice of the North.
So tell me, what's the story behind this man and this beautiful city?
This man is Peter the Great, the man who put Russia on the map, I think you can say that. And this is the man who created this city, St. Petersburg, when there was nothing here except a marshland. And he called it St. Petersburg after his patron saint. Not after himself, although of course very convenient that he was called Peter. Only a few years after the city had begun, he said, one day people will come here and they will be amazed. And this city has always attracted dreamers, people who came here to create something.
Carême can be described as one of those dreamers, but his trip turned into something of a nightmare, as after he nearly died on the crossing, he now discovered that the Tsar was not at home.
The Tsar had asked him on 3 occasions to come here, and then on the day Carême arrived in 1819, it was the day that Alexander left on a 40-day trip to Archangel. So poor Carême, world's most famous chef, turns up here and doesn't have a job.
So even if he never cooked at the Winter Palace, did he have any influence at all in the Russian cuisine?
Alexander himself said about Carême that what we did not know was that he taught us to eat. There's no doubt that his influence was crucial to the development of Russian food.
Carême also discovered there was a certain anti-French feeling in the city, as the Russians were still basking in the glory of their moral victory against Napoleon in 1812. Carême had got the cold shoulder from his Russian hosts, but would go on to find gainful employment on the coastal fringes of St. Petersburg at the Palace of Peterhof. Much of Peterhof was destroyed by the Nazis in the Second World War, but it's been lovingly restored, including the kitchen.
This is one of the few kitchens we know where Carême cooked, and with original equipment.
But he was happy here. He was happy, I think.
Oh, I think he was a lot happier in this kitchen than he would have been in the Winter Palace. There had been a crisis in the kitchens, and the Tsar had ordered an audit. And from what we understand, it must have been like cooking with tax inspectors standing right behind you. And here, he would have been kingpin, he would have been Carême from Paris, yes.
Much of the equipment Carême would have used is on display.
Oh wow, that's another pastry section. The cold one, I imagine.
It is, absolutely. This is molasses sugar, isn't it?
Molasses sugar, yeah, that's the raw product. Yeah, we used to. That's the way it used to come. It used to have to be chopped, grated, and using kind of torturous instrument to end up with little pieces like those. And do you know what it is?
It looks like an ice. It does look like a butter maker, yes.
It's actually an ice cream maker.
Really?
And it's actually been very rare to see it in such a good conditions. Apart of being a bit rustic looking, to be honest, it's the same equipment we use today in our kitchen. You know, if you give me some ingredients, I could bake you a cake.
It was the nobility who ran Russia in the 19th century, and the families like the Romanovs were desperate to have a famous French chef at their beck and call.
And now I want to show you really something amazing.
Oh my God.
Here we have the dining room of the Catherine wing. The palace is named after Catherine II. Here is her grandson, Alexander I.
French china, I imagine?
No, no.
It's not Sèvres?
No, it's Russian. It's made by the Imperial Porcelain Manufactory. 4,600 pieces. Took 7 years to make. When the guests sat down, they would have looked, they would have thought, I don't believe it.
Because of the design.
Yes, Russian peasants and these elite French-speaking Russian guests would have thought, what am I eating off?
Because if I'm right, I remember reading about Carême being shocked when he arrived in Russia about how many servants and but still having serfs, you know, walking everywhere, and he was very shocked by that.
He was not only shocked by what he saw in the street, he was really shocked by the number of people he had in the kitchen when he understood that they were not free people, they were not even peasants, they were all serfs.
Carême's influence on Russian cuisine is unquestioned. They were impressed with his incredible pièce montée, as well as the fact that he simplified the cooking. But in the way they served the food at the table, it was the Russians who had the lasting effect on Carême.
The Russians sat down, they were served the soup first, and then they brought in the food in different courses. For the Russians, it seemed like a very obvious thing. Why would you want to eat cold food?
Exactly.
The French thought, we're not worried about cold food, we're worried about impressions. You know, we want it to look good. And it was really Carême who first started saying, we don't have to eat cold food.
On his return from Russia, Carême introduced service à la Russe to Western culture. The menu of starter, main course, and the third course, the dessert, was born. This next recipe's possibly not quite right for those cold Russian winters. It's a mock soufflé.
So this new recipe is actually quite an unusual one. It's a soufflé glacé. And no need to panic. It's actually a mock soufflé. It's going to be a frozen one. So for this, I'm using a soufflé dish. And what I've done is I attach a piece of silicone paper around the edge, like roughly 1.5 inch taller. And this, of course, when we're going to serve it, it's going to be removed and it look like the soufflé have rised, but it's not going to rise at all. Okay, it doesn't need any cooking, to be honest. And the one we're making is actually a blackcurrant soufflé, cassis ones. Okay, so we need 3 layers of plain vanilla sponge, just classical recipe, you know, flour, eggs, butter, and a bit of vanilla essence. So those 3 layers are going to give us some texture inside our soufflé. I know I said it wasn't a real souffle, but we want it to be as light as a souffle. And the secret is the base is actually an Italian meringue. Italian meringue is a very classic meringue. The difference between the others is actually the egg white are cooked with a sugar syrup, with water and sugar pour over the egg white, the whipped egg white, and that cook the egg white. But instead to use sugar and water, here in my saucepan here cooking, I got some blackcurrant puree with the syrup, 50-50 of each.
This mixture will color as well as cook your egg whites.
Look how light and fluffy it is. This large bowl, I'm gonna pour the blackcurrant Italian meringue. This is just double cream which has been lightly whipped. I mean, I know you can use other fruit, but I think just because of the color, it's just worth going through.
Build your soufflé by putting vanilla sponge in the base. Sprinkle some crème de cassis and then place the mixture on top.
And a bit of cassis puree inside as well.
Then repeat this process twice more until your cake reaches the top of the silicone paper.
And on purpose, do it a bit roughly so it looks like a proper soufflé, it just rises in the oven.
A final layer of cassis puree, and then this soufflé needs to set in the freezer.
Okay, so I had one I made yesterday. It's been sitting on the back there for an hour or so. So just gonna remove the silicone paper gently. And I think it should be just served on its own with just a few berries. There we go. And I'm just gonna dust it slightly with a bit of icing sugar. Here we are, a blackcurrant soufflé glacé.